Good morning, everybody, and welcome. And for my South African counterparts, goeiemorgen. What an absolute joy to be with you today. And thank you so much for your attendance and being on this amazing webinar. As you can see, it's entitled Streamlining DevSecOps with GitLab, Seamless Integration from Code to Deployment. My name is Michael Buckton. I'm the sales manager for Amazic, EMEA. I'm based in London, in the UK. And I have the joy and delight of having my colleague Milo with us today, Milo Udenala. He's the Amazic marketing manager based in the Netherlands, where our head office sits. So we are delighted to be able to be with you today. Again, welcome to the Kinetic Skunk team. Donovan, we are absolutely joyous to be on the call with you guys and to support you. We know that from a GitLab point of view, you're going to be doing a fabulous job in introducing us to, I think, arguably the most comprehensive AI-powered DevSecOps platform around. We have the pleasure and the privilege of providing to our partners. And we'll find out today that it integrates development and security and, of course, all the tools around operation, ensuring that the entire software delivery cycle is taken care of. So it's a fabulous vendor to be presenting today. So thank you so much for the opportunity. A little bit about us. Our founder and CEO, Mohammed Yassini, 15 years ago, founded our business. It's based, as I say, in the Netherlands. We are a specialist software distribution house. We provide complementary technology in the DevSecOps space or sector. And I think we again say, arguably, we have some of the strongest network of unique partners across the world, operating in approximately 50 countries. We have a staff presence in many of those countries, some very skilled and professional people supporting our partners. The likes of Docker, HashiCorp, Sysdig, as you can see on the screen, and Mirantis, and of course today GitLab. So it's an absolute joy for us to be on the call. We are here to support a business that we're excited about, working with us in the EMEA region, notwithstanding the fact that DevSecOps as a technology and the skills that Donovan and his team offer is in play in those regions together with us. But we're quite excited about the fact that besides driving digital transformation across his partner set, or his customer set rather, he's fostering talents, and I think it sits quite well with us, particularly in the disadvantaged or diverse areas in South Africa. So we're very excited about that. Very joyous to be on the call, and thank you for the opportunity. So Donovan, I hand over to you, and once again, great to be on the call with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Donovan. I'm the founder and CEO of Kinetic Skunk. Thank you for starting us off and introducing us. Michael. So yeah, happy to be here. We've been partners with GitLab for a very long time, and as you mentioned, we see GitLab as the number one platform for DevSecOps and DevOps. Right? Working as a DevOps engineer for a few years, I used to feel that as a DevOps engineer, I needed all these tools. I needed to chain so many tools together to accomplish or support a deployment or a CI or CD deployment pipeline. And then along came GitLab. Initially, I saw it as a threat to my job because I was so concerned with integrating all these tools. But then, my mind shifted, and the penny dropped, and I realized my job was to make sure deployments are as frictionless, as easy as possible. And so I personally then adopted GitLab, and then at that stage said to myself, okay, Kinetic Skunk needs to become a GitLab partner. And we can go into the history of that, but you know, I am conscious of time. We've got quite a bit to go through, so I will continue with our slideshow. Let's see. Okay, today the content or what we're talking about, who is Kinetic Skunk? And we'll look at some DevOps key learnings, customer case study, a demo, Q&A, and get started. All right, there we go. Who's Kinetic Skunk? So our mission is to drive technological excellence, business efficiency through innovative DevOps, DevSecOps, observability, and software test modernization solutions. Why we do software test modernization? We found that lots of businesses want to modify or modernize how they do app dev, build applications, but they don't they don't pay attention to the testing that also needs to be modernized. So we see a greater need for that currently, at least in our space. We are committed to empowering businesses by aligning the digital assets with their ambitions and fostering a diverse and inclusive tech community. By nurturing talent from disadvantaged backgrounds and collaborating with top-tier vendors, we deliver secure, high-quality services tailored to our clients' needs, helping them to ensure their success and growth in the digital era. So, if you look at Kinetic Skunk, we're sort of an insurance business. We mitigate the risk in the software delivery pipeline, and yeah, that's the business. We are GitLab professional services partners and GitLab channel partners. Yep, our solutions focus on DevOps, DevSecOps, observability, cloud computing, data ops, and software test modernization. All right. Moving on to our DevOps key learnings, understanding core principles and the benefits. Okay, core principles of DevSecOps. Number one is to integrate security practices into the DevOps process from the start. Number two, automate security checks to ensure continuous protection, foster collaboration between development, security, and operations teams, shift left security to catch vulnerabilities early in the development cycle. Okay, so focusing on integrating security into the DevOps process from the start. That would be supported by implementing a shift left security strategy. So what you want to do, so looking at, in my opinion, what I call or define as the new definition of software quality. It's no longer just the absence of functional defects or performance defects, but it's an absence or remediation or remediation of known vulnerabilities, right? And that needs to be automated, needs to be part of your CI pipeline, your CD pipeline, because you need to shorten that feedback cycle so that you can, first of all, reduce the cost of fixing those issues and reduce the cost of vulnerabilities, making it out into production and thereby exposing your business to significant risk. Okay. Automate security. There are many tools to do that. GitLab does that really well, which we'll get into in the demo. Foster collaboration. So traditionally, dev, test, security, ops, all are siloed. But in today's day and age, there's no longer need for that, right? In my opinion, it just shouldn't exist given the technologies that we have at our fingertips. And GitLab completely supports this. Every role in the software development lifecycle is supported in the GitLab platform, right? And we'll get a bit more into that during the demo. Advantages of embedding security. As I mentioned, reduce risk. So we identify and mitigate vulnerabilities earlier. Improve compliance, ensure adherence to security regulations and standards, which is something that GitLab supports. Enhance collaboration. So We're going to break down silos between teams, faster delivery, secure software without sacrificing speed. What GitLab does really well is remove the friction in the deployment pipeline, in the CI pipeline, the deployment pipeline, when it comes to implementing vulnerability and security testing or scans within the deployment pipeline. So it's no longer a task where you build something, throw it over the wall and go, hey, security people, take a look at this. No, we can build most of those checks into the pipeline from the word go. Okay, ensuring robust and secure development. Right. So this is another advantage. So how do we do this? We will, you'll have to conduct regular security training for all team members, implement continuous monitoring and feedback loops, utilize security tools that integrate seamlessly with CI/CD pipelines, regularly update and patch software to fix security issues promptly. Focusing just on patching. Let's say you scan, your part of your pipeline is to scan a Docker container that's built during your build process, right? So you'd want to scan that container for OS level vulnerabilities, any packages that's installed, vulnerabilities. So you actually will be doing your patching on the fly, just as part of the deployment process, right? At least when it comes to microservices. Conducting regular security training, depending if you ISO 27001 compliant or have any other security compliances. Regular training, it would be part of that to maintain compliance. Right. Continuous monitoring and feedback. So GitLab also has the feature, the capability where you can continuously monitor or scan your code base, any containers that you've built. And the reason for this, the simple one, what's unknown today could be known tomorrow. So running your scans once a week probably isn't enough, given what's happening in industry, data breaches as an example. All right. Utilizing security tools that integrate seamlessly with the CI/CD pipeline. GitLab does this amazingly well, from SAST, DAST, and a number of other type of security features that are built into the platform and easily integrated into your pipelines. Okay, moving on to our customer case study. So this is the Jenkins to GitLab migration. And we had to migrate several SDKs for mobile dev for one of our customers. And we had to include the DevSecOps component, or the SecOps component in those pipelines. So it's quite a sophisticated or challenging set of pipelines to migrate. Given that it is iOS and Android SDKs, and given that the customer is also a fintech business providing security in the fintech industry to banks, they had to comply or have to comply with PCI 4, and that had to be taken into consideration in the deployment pipelines. So this case study is going to be in the form of an interview, which we recorded, and these are the interview questions. Right. So asked basically, so I conducted the interview. The person who I'm interviewing, his name is Paul Knauer. He is the Vice President of Engineering for Intersect. And yep, these are the questions. Question 1, can you describe the primary motivation behind Intersect's decision to migrate from Jenkins to GitLab? Question 2, what are some of the key challenges your team faced during the migration, and how did Kinetics help overcome them? How did the migration impact the efficiency and security of your CI/CD processes? What role did Kinetic Skunk DevOps engineers play in the project, and how did their experience benefit your team? Question 5, could you share some insights on the post-migration validation and monitoring processes that were put in place? And finally, question 6, what role did Kinetic Skunk DevOps engineers the same as question 4. Apologies about that, but in the video, you will see the questions come up. All right, moving straight to the video. Right, and Atto, maybe give us a bit of your background.
Yeah, I'm a Vice President of Software Engineering at Intersect. My role encompasses managing teams, processes, a lot of people aspects, but then also tooling and DevSecOps functionality. Also recently been made the head of Agile. I have a long history in Agile. I was made a Scrum Master in 2006, so I've been doing that for a long time too. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, that's kind of my role.
So my background, I've been in IT since the mid-90s. Started off as a network engineer in NT 3.5 and 4 for my sins, and then somehow got into automated testing in 97, stuck with it, and started Kinetic Skunk. We started this test automation business and involved into DevOps, DevSecOps, and microservices, Kubernetes, all that whole shebang, given the modern approaches to software development and infrastructure management. Some time back, our teams started working together to help to assist intersecting, migrating from Judah, from Jenkins to GitLab.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we were in a process of migrating our CI/CD pipelines from a legacy Jenkins build server into cloud-based GitLab Ultimate Edition. And we'd pretty much done all of the easy ones. And by far the most difficult one are our mobile SDK build pipelines. We build in the 4 primary mobile languages. So those are the 2 iOS and then the 2 Android languages. And we additionally do some other of the framework type languages as well and platforms. But those are the primary 4. And that makes those build pipelines the most arduous. In a spectacular anti-pattern kind of maneuver, we left it till last. We should have put the risk up front. And so we really needed to move these pipelines. So we engaged with Kinetic Skunk and got their DevSecOps engineers involved to help us build and migrate these CI/CD pipelines in GitLab. It was a fairly easy process. Our onboarding process is quite rigorous. So once we'd onboarded everybody as contractors, we merely gave them access to the relevant repos and gave them a briefing, and they were off. They really did a fantastic job of making sure we had periodic check-ins, we had regular stand-ups and so on, and so we could see how the project was progressing. Every now and then we would sort of guide if as needed. But the project was delivered on time and it went really smoothly.
All right, that's good to hear. I'm very happy. Yeah, my team was really excited about getting onto the project. I've followed Intersect on LinkedIn for a long time, so it was quite exciting for me personally to get onto that, for us to get onto the project and to work in such a regulated environment.
Yes.
And also because I see Intersect as one of the as a leading business in its domain, fintech security, in the fintech space.
Thank you.
And it was also our team, they were very and so is very impressed with how things happen at Intersect, the laser-like focus on doing things right first time. And so it was also it was good for us to be on a project like that, because it was like it was quite easy to work with the team. Can you describe the primary motivations behind Intersec's decision to migrate from Jenkins to GitLab?
Yeah, sure. So we were previously using Bitbucket along with Jenkins build server and some other third-party add-on security tools, some of them quite well known. So of course we wanted to consolidate everything into one tool to make life a little bit easier. Additionally, the security options, we felt that there was a broader range of security tooling within GitLab. And then, of course, cost was another big motivator. With all the disparate tools we were using and the particular security tool that we were using to do our SAST, it made the cost of actually moving to GitLab Ultimate more compelling. And it was actually, in order to motivate that cost, it was fairly painless because, in fact, it was a reduction in cost.
Okay. Yeah. In the days when I worked as a DevOps engineer, I used to be quiet. I thought I was Captain Fantastic, managing all these different tools, integrated together to achieve an end-to-end pipeline, and maintaining that pipeline and then making sure the integration was flawless to whatever degree could be achieved. I've always been nervous about running a build because the pipeline was quite brittle. And then along came GitLab, and as a DevOps engineer, I first saw GitLab as a threat to my job. What am I going to do? I need to manage pipeline, but then there was a shift in my thinking, realizing my job was actually to enable, to create a self-service environment for the devs who could just follow some branching strategy, trigger a pipeline, and to go through the stages, testing it in the pipeline, and we'll all be, everyone will be happy that they have faster deployments, business happy because they have time to achieving the time to market their goals, right? What are some of the key challenges your team faced during the migration, and how did Kinetic Skunk help overcome them?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, it was the one we left till last, and I think it's the mobile SDK build pipelines are by far our most our biggest and most have the most steps and that kind of thing built into them. So we really needed to get them migrated, and we had a team, but the team was busy, building and migrating everywhere else as well. So Kinetic Skunk helped us not only get up to speed and get moving quickly, but they absolutely helped us achieve the goal, as though they simply fitted in as though they were just an augmentation of our existing DevOps team, and helped us to migrate these very difficult pipelines. And of course, our teams could focus on other aspects as they were doing this. So it was a lot of peace of mind as we went through it.
Yeah, I think a lot had to do with also the culture of the DevOps team and our DevOps team, both wanting to do something good. It's technically challenging, and techies love technically challenging.
And they were cut from the same cloth. Right?
So it made that the cohesion much easier to achieve. How did the migration impact the efficiency and security of your CI/CD processes?
Well, in terms of efficiency, because they were consolidated into one, they also have these aspects in GitLab that allow you to create different build stages that you can have that run at various times of the life cycle. So commit would run you might run unit tests, but you might not run them, for example, on the merge request. Additionally, we can run like post-merge request testing on the master branch just to make sure that that we've met certain requirements and so on. So we have this, it's probably the same amount of work, but we are deciding where we need to run certain jobs and so on. So it provides for quicker build pipelines, which are obviously more efficient. Because of that, they are selectively decided where they will run.
Before, I worked a lot with using Jenkins and moving to GitLab. I understand how I've experienced and the improvement that you can achieve. Yeah. What role did Kinetic Skunks DevOps engineers play in the project, and how did their expertise benefit your team? I think that you answered that in part already, but you care to comment?
Yeah, as I mentioned, they were sort of very almost integral, almost an extension of the team. So it made it quite easy for us to brief them and to get the project done. We're a remote first company, so Kinetic Skunks DevOps engineers fitted in very well. They were also working remotely, and it went off seamlessly.
Could you share some insights on the post-migration validation and monitoring processes that were put in place?
Yeah, so most of it is around the dashboarding that is built into GitLab. We can tell, for example, how long our runners are spending. I'm able to see at the top level what implementation level we have on various repos. So I can see as teams adopt the CI/CD pipelines, we can see how much dev, how much sec, and how much ops integration we have. Our ops is quite light. DevOps does provide, or GitLab, apologies, does provide ops functionality. We deploy to Kubernetes clusters. It requires an agent, which we're a bit averse to because we're very security and risk averse. So we have effectively branched off at that point and then use the ECR environment, the container registry in AWS to deploy containers to, and then we go from there into AWS. But the DevSec, it gives us project by project, repo by repo access. Additionally, we were able to set policies on a level, and for example, license use policies and various other policies are allowed. And basically, this allows us to say if somebody tries to commit code that references a library that is of a license type that we don't agree with, or they introduce a CVE of critical severity, we prevent the commit, and then they need to seek approval from an approver, normally somebody like myself, to go, okay, fine, we'll let this through, which we never do. We say fix it, remove the issue, but it gives me that peace of mind and that sense of control that allows me to know that certain policies are being enforced through the GitLab tool. Very powerful feature.
And indeed, I'm thinking about how we use GitLab internally for our own internal projects. When we come across dependencies that have known vulnerabilities, and then we apply a similar approach. The build stops here, and it's a non-negotiable.
Yes.
Either find a dependency that doesn't have vulnerability to do the same thing, write boilerplate code, or upgrade the version, go to a version where it's no longer exists. There's no vulnerability. The thing about the vulnerabilities, though, which I think some people forget about, I think if you run the build once and no vulnerabilities are checked, are found, and you deploy, all good. But what's unknown today could be known tomorrow.
Correct.
So you need to continuously run those scans.
Every build, we're running obviously the CVE checks and so on. We run the vulnerability scans, and then we can see what happens. So if vulnerabilities emerge, so other than just the policy blocking, which is, I suppose we could say, known vulnerabilities, we're also highlighting those. We have certain release criteria. Obviously, we don't release with critical vulnerabilities and those kind of things. So every step along the way in our process has got checks. I'm afraid building software in a highly compliant environment is more expensive than building software elsewhere, but that's simply because of the rigor we need to put into it.
Personally, I think that really should be applied. everywhere that software is built.
We're seeing that in shift left, right? If you're shifting DevSecOps left, you see that other organizations are taking it because you can't afford to take chances. And whether you're in regulated financial fintech kind of industry or anything else, you should be doing it.
Yeah. Businesses who have suffered data breaches or any type of
anything like that.
Yeah, they suffer major reputational damage.
Yes.
You could be out of SLA, so you can get sued. Your user community or your customers, clients, they abandon you.
Yes.
It's quite catastrophic.
Yes.
So if you think about it, you invest so much into building a product, but then you don't want to pay the insurance.
Exactly. It's kind of like insurance, yeah. You'd wish you used something like GitLab once a breach occurs, So, absolutely.
What are the future plans for intersect CI/CD processes following this successful migration? I guess the migration happened I don't know, about 24 months back.
Yeah.
So there's a post-migration and maybe the current plan.
Yeah. So since migration, we achieved PCI DSS and 3DS compliance in part of our business in the payments part. And then additionally, we are now driving SOC 2 compliance as well, again in payments. And then in January of 24, we purchased a company, Estonian-based company known as Moderum. And we're in the process of actually integrating them from GitHub into GitLab. And so we're really syncing their repos across using the GitLab pull repository feature that they have. And so that the ongoing, as they commit, we imported the history and the branches and everything else that came along with it. And now we're basically syncing as they're committing in GitHub. We plan to bring the GitHub issues into Jira, and we're going to do it on team-by-team basis. There's roughly 8 or so teams. So we're going to bring them across team by team. All the issues come across, all of their wiki documentation, everything comes across. And then, of course, we build the CI/CD pipeline that matches what they were doing in Jenkins on their side in GitHub. So it's like Groundhog Day. It's the same as what we were doing before, again, with Jenkins migrations and so on into GitLab. But that's going to occupy most of our FY25 fin year, which starts in July.
Okay, that's amazing. Sounds like quite a lot of work, an entire financial year worth of work. So it's going to be quite extensive. But I'm sure migrating to GitLab, there's as we discussed, there's so many benefits, and I'm glad to hear that you're sticking to GitLab.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, we evaluate GitLab. We're continuously going to do total cost of ownership evaluation on various tools, and we found that GitLab actually very often when we do compare tools, once you take the cost of the security tooling of the for the compliance reasons, if we were on GitHub, for example, we'd need to be enterprise level compliant to achieve PCI level 4, which is coming. So basically, then it starts to become comparable to GitLab. So we continuously do this, and I think it's an important endeavor.
Yeah. So the total cost of ownership. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, all those tools we strung together. So it'll be license costs for each and every one of those tools. We're training along that entire tool chain.
Yes. There's some lost productivity as the engineers adapt to those kind of tools. And because they're not a familiar experience, I think it's more difficult. Whereas there's the same sort of UX experience in GitLab. It makes it easier to adopt.
Okay, absolutely. Okay, we've come to the end of our interview. Thank you so much for your time, Paul.
Thank you for having me.
Hi everyone. Apologies about the lip sync being out with the audio. There seemed to be a slight glitch with our Wi-Fi here, and when that happened, the lip sync went out. So apologies about that. Okay, so that was our interview with Paul Knauer, the VP of Engineering for Intersect. Okay, moving on to the demo. So just understanding the core principles and benefits. Okay. So yep, what we'll be demoing today is a project setup. We're going to take a look at the CI/CD pipeline config. We're going to run some unit tests, do some scanning, dependency scanning, SAST scanning, and then we'll build a container with the application in it, do some container scanning, then we'll deploy, and we'll do some tests, and then API tests. All right. Just going to do a bit of a quick run through about what gymnasium dependency scanning is, SAST is, and DAST is, and the benefits thereof. Okay. Gymnasium dependency scanning is a feature within GitLab designed to automatically detect security vulnerabilities in your project dependencies. So the key features is you have automated scanning for security vulnerabilities in project dependencies during your pipeline execution. It generates a detailed report with some severity, affected dependencies, and remediation suggestions. Seamlessly integrates with GitLab CI/CD pipelines, supports multiple package managers, uses an up-to-date database of known vulnerabilities. Benefits, so proactive security, you identify and fix vulnerabilities early in the development cycle, or life cycle, integrated into your workflow, so enhances security without disrupting existing workflows. Compliance, assist in maintaining compliance with security standards and best practices. SimGrip SAST, or Static Application Security Testing, is a feature within GitLab that leverages SimGrip, an open source static analysis tool to detect security vulnerabilities and code quality issues in your source code. The key features, you have pattern-based static analysis tool to detect security vulnerabilities and code quality issues in source code. This supports the shift left paradigm for both testing and security. Supports a wide range of programming languages and provides both predefined and custom rules. So you can create your own custom rules specific to your code base. Seamlessly integrate with GitLab CI/CD pipeline, so it makes it easy to incorporate into existing workflows. Again, this one also generates a detailed report of severity and remediation suggestions. Benefits, early detection, so we can fix issues in the build process or in the development process, customizable, easy to customize the tool to fit specific needs, integrated workflow, enhancing security and quality without disrupting existing workflows, and has extensive language support, programming language support. Dynamic Application Security Standing, or DAST, is a type of security testing that involves evaluating the security of an application while it's running. Key features, automated dynamic scanning of running web applications for security vulnerabilities during CI/CD pipeline execution, detects a wide range of security issues such as SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and more. Seamlessly integrates with GitLab CI/CD pipelines. You have configurable scanning for specific URLs, paths, and authentication parameters. Generates a detailed report with severity and remediation suggestions. So the benefits, you have real-time security testing. So you test an application in a live environment to detect runtime vulnerabilities, enhance security posture, complement static analysis by identifying issues detectable only during execution. Continuous monitoring, you can continuously monitor applications for new vulnerabilities. Okay, moving on. We recorded the demo because, as you know, Most demos seem to fail during a webinar or when you're actually demonstrating. There we go. So now we're doing a project creation. It's very exciting, I know. So when you create a project, GitLab gives you these options right off the bat of how you'd like to initialize your Git repo, or if it's not a repo, how to set it up. So you can just choose a set of commands specific to your requirement at that stage. So right now, the code base is already present in that folder. And now we're just pushing it to GitLab. Okay, and it's that simple. We have it now. So now we're looking at the CI/CD configuration. So here we have the build stage, and we have the test stage. As you can see, the CI/CD configuration is quite simple, quite easy to set up. You can have your rules over here to which dictates when this process kicks off, or this build phase or job kicks off. In this case, we have two we've daisy chained two rules here. So when the merge request source branch contains a word bug fix or feature or hotfix or release, and the target branch is the default branch. When it meets those conditions, this just job will trigger. So you can trigger or configure your pipeline to trigger certain jobs only under certain conditions, obviously specific to your branching strategy. Okay, and then we're running our scans and getting ready to deploy over here. Right. So now we're going to trigger a pipeline. You always have to set your branch to track a certain branch. Very important to prevent merge conflicts. Now we create an merge request. So leading up to the merge request, we'll be running unit tests, dependency scanning, and SemGrep SAS scanning as well. So these are your basic, which I refer to as code quality checks, which should be run as often as possible. That's just the command line feedback that we're getting from GitLab. Here you can go and look at your unit tests. There's some configuration that requires that is required for GitLab to consume those unit tests, easily configured in your in the YAML of the specific job. Now we're looking at that was the license report for license compliance scanning. And now we're looking at a vulnerability report. And you can go through your vulnerabilities and decide what you need to do about them. We have many high vulnerabilities over here, so under normal conditions, this will never make it into a live environment or a production environment. But for demo purposes, we're just pushing on through. Okay, so we're rerunning the scans that we ran in the previous pipeline. The reason for this, you might have several merge requests, so say several changes going into your into the target branch. So you'd want to ensure that no one downstream skipped fixing some vulnerabilities, or removing vulnerabilities, or reducing the risk of vulnerabilities. And this is just the feedback from GitLab. So the container has been built, and now we're scanning the container for known vulnerabilities. Now, once that scan is done, we're going to deploy into a Kubernetes. Okay, we have deployed into a Kubernetes cluster, and there we're using some Terraform infrastructure as code templates to deploy. Into to deploy into a Kubernetes cluster. I know we could use Helm, but internally we've standardized on Terraform. So that's the results of the container scanning. Lots of vulnerabilities there, which will need to be fixed. Here we're looking at licenses. Okay. Let's get to the next part of the demo. Okay. Okay, that demo is quite fast. Moving on. Sorry guys, I'm just going to make some changes here quickly. And that is the demo. Moving on to questions and answers. Um, any, so waiting for some questions. Let's see, what do we have here? Yes, definitely the webinar will be shared. Okay. The best way to get into DevSecOps, well, the first question is, have you started with DevOps? Right. If you haven't started with DevOps, then what I would look at is getting to understand what are the processes um, in CI, continuous integration, right? And what it takes to build or an application, right? So let's take Java as example. A Java artifact would be a jar, right? That jar, you need to build that jar with using some raw code, a combination of raw code and dependencies and configuration. That code needs to be unit tested. So how do you execute unit testing as part of a CI pipeline? Maybe you're going to do some measure code coverage, and you're going to do your static analysis, etc. So all the code quality type stuff, right? So what is so basically you need to understand how do you measure code quality, and then you pull in your security scans, etc. And that's like a practical way to start. But the first area is, to understand how to build basic artifacts such as Docker containers, jars, uh, packages, etc., and how to automate the building of that. And then you can move into the security stuff, so the scans, etc. So why do you scan? Are you scanning just for the sake of scanning because the boss said you must scan, or that's just the policy for scanning, right? So why do you scan? You scan to protect the business, right? You scan to protect your customers. You scan to remain within SLA kind of thing. So from a business perspective, how would you do DevSecOps? So that's the areas that I'll start with. If you don't have any technical experience, right, I'd start learning how to, if you want to get into Docker, maybe you need to understand a bit of Linux because you need Linux to build them, Docker containers. There's many areas to start. Theoretically, maybe do a basic course in DevOps and DevSecOps to understand the principles. Okay, the tools that we are using for vulnerability scanning are the ones that's built into GitLab, such as SimGrep, to scan for known vulnerabilities. Right. Okay, I'm not aware of the tool ready API. Does that scan endpoints, or does it actually look at your dependencies? Does the static analysis, Jerry? Okay, so that's a form of dynamic application testing, and we use GitLab's inbuilt test scanning capability for that. Obviously, there are many tools that you can use for that to accomplish that. So yeah, using SonarQube for code scans, that's great. SonarQube has many good features, such as you can create your own profiles for the code base that you're scanning, or just straight out of the box. Those scanners work quite well. Yep. But what GitLab gives you is it's an end-to-end set of tools, right? You don't have to pay for SonarQube. You don't have to pay for Ready API, etc. It's out of the box, has all of that, right? Especially the Ultimate Edition. So the license cost for one tool sounds like a lot, but when you take all the features and you check what tools in the market support those features, and then you have to pay for licenses for all those features, for all those tools. You have to train people along to maintain those tools, to use those tools, etc. Suddenly it becomes quite expensive. Welcome. There's a small mention of a GitLab agent for integration with Kubernetes. Can you expand on that a little? Yeah. So in order for GitLab to deploy into a target cluster, or target Kubernetes cluster, you need to integrate it using an agent. So you have a GitLab agent on the deployed in the cluster. Unfortunately, it needs to have cluster admin rights. So I guess that is a security issue that Paul mentioned earlier. Yep. So to deploy to a target cluster, you need that. But you can pull in a Helm container into your pipeline, and that Helm container you can use that container to deploy into your target clusters, and then you don't need to assign cluster admin rights. Okay. The best practices, Grant, would be to use what the GitLab gives you, right? So the best practices are sort of agnostic to a set of to GitLab or to whatever DevSecOps or DevOps platform you're using. But what GitLab gives you is a better frictionless way of implementing best practice in your CI/CD pipelines. Christopher, how does DevSecOps strategy ensure? So this will be the last question because there's one or two more slides I need to get through. How does a DevSecOps strategy ensure that security practices are integrated into the CI/CD pipeline? So earlier on, you sort of had a quick look at that YAML file. The YAML file defines the pipeline, and in the YAML file will have jobs. Each job can do something such as unit test, security type stuff, vulnerability scanning, deployments, builds, etc. Right? So those jobs would be, especially the security ones, is what you'd use to integrate security into your pipeline. You can have pipelines inheriting from other pipelines, so you can have a standard code quality pipeline with unit testing, code coverage, static analysis, etc. And then all your other pipelines can pull from that, can inherit from that. Okay, done. Good question, Nezuko. The obstacles that we are facing probably could be buy-in, management buy-in, or commonly this is how we've always done things. Why do we need to do this, right? And that could be a common obstacle. However, if you do proper change management, and not just land at a customer and say, hey, here's the tool, we're going to solve all your DevSecOps problems, just do this. You need the element of change management. Why are you going to do DevSecOps? What are the principles? What are the core principles? Why you should be doing it, etc. To get the target to your audience or the customers, stakeholders to be receptive and want to do it. Right? When you just bring a tool, introduce a new tool, and say all these other tools are going to go, right? You're going to get resistance. You need to do change management, and change management is quite often ignored. So how do we get through it? We do the discovery, we do assessments, and we work out the readiness of our clients, and then we present them with a report regarding that readiness. And then we move on, and then we start to do the change management process, and then we introduce some tools such as GitLab. Right? Okay, just moving on to the last couple of slides. Thank you guys for that, for those questions. So as part of this webinar, for all those who decided to stay with us for an hour and a minute so far, we are offering a 2-week DevSecOps assessment. So just quickly, cognizant of time, 2-week DevSecOps assessment designed to evaluate your organization's current DevSecOps practices and yeah, to identify gaps and provide actionable recommendations to enhance security integration within your CI/CD pipeline. So week 1 will be discovery and analysis. So we'll have a kickoff meeting. We will introduce what the plan is or what the process is. Documentation review. So look at what policies, what documentation do you have in place. Tool and process evaluation. Then interviews and workshops. And we'll present an initial report. Week 2, we will present, at the end of week 2, we'll present some recommendations, etc. So the planning, so security posture assessment, best practices identification, come up with some customized recommendations and implementation roadmap, and a final presentation. Okay, sorry. So the 2-week DevSecOps assessment, so free for the first 3 registrations, 50% off for the next 3, 25% off for the next 3, and 10% off for the next 3. So hopefully you make it within the first 12. So that's what you need to scan. We'll open up a form. In the form, you have to add some of the details, but select GitLab Webinar DevSecOps Assessment as an option, and you take it from there. The link to the form will also be provided as a follow-up. Okay, I'm going to leave it up for just another 30 seconds, and then we'll be moving on. You're welcome, Judy. And moving. All right, we got about 10 more seconds to go. Hopefully you've managed to scan it. All right. And this will be part of the recording we'll send you, so you'll have all our details there. All right, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure. I hope to hear from you soon. You can comment on LinkedIn about today's session, tag us, and yeah, happy with your devs, happy or good luck, happy days with your DevSecOps plans. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.